Inside the Beltway. It's been my pleasure over 30 years in broadcast to talk to a lot of very successful people, very powerful people, very courageous people. Rarely do they all combine in one guest like they do in Jimmy Lai from Hong Kong, the businessman extraordinaire, a billionaire, a democratic activist in the city of Hong Kong. Joins me. He's been arrested twice this year. He is released right now. We're not going to talk about the circumstances of the cases that have been alleged against him, but I am so honored to have you on, Jimmy Lai. Welcome to the Hugh Hewitt Show.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning to you.
Have you with me. Thank you.
Would you begin by giving us a sketch of your current circumstances and how you're feeling right now about the future in Hong Kong?
Okay, I was arrested in February with another two Democrats, and the reason for the arrest was that we had illegal assembly because last year we took on the street to demonstrate without the permit of the police. Actually, we have the constitutional right to demonstrate, but the police need to know to say that they don't object it. We don't have that permit of non-objection, and that's why they arrest us and accuse us of illegal assembly. So on the a few days ago, they arrest us again together with another. We are altogether 15 people, including our grandfather of democracy movement, Mr. Martin Lee, who is 81 years old.
Wow.
So this arrest is very obvious and intimidation of all of the people who are moderate, but dare to walk on the street to demonstrate. So these moderate people are the 2 million, 1 million, 1.5 million people who always went out. The purpose of this is to intimidate these moderate Hong Kong people, which is a majority, won't dare to go out to demonstrate again, so they can isolate the more radical young people who confront the police. Because if the small group of radical are isolated, they can easily handle them.
But they can't handle millions. Jimmy Lai, when I was in Hong Kong a year ago...
They cannot handle the millions and millions, yes.
When I was in Hong Kong a year ago, I have never seen a better organized city, a more wonderful city, a cleaner city. I mean, it's dense, but it's so amazing. Why is the mainland so intent on breaking the deal of one country, two systems? Why not just let Hong Kong flourish like it always has?
Well, I think for dictatorship, for tyrant like Xi Jinping, control is their second nature. They want to control. And Hong Kong people who share the same value as the Western world because of our colonial legacy. So we have the rule of law, we have the freedom of speech, we have the property right, we have the freedom of religion, we have the freedom of assembly, we have all that freedom institution which Chinese people in China don't have, which is a form in the eye of Xi Jinping. Because if we have all this freedom that they cannot control us as they can control the Chinese people, he just can't bear with it, because we may become a beacon of the Western value to influence the people in China, which is what he is afraid of.
I think you've already done that. I think the whole world is watching Hong Kong. They're watching you, Jimmy Lai, and saying, whatever happens to Jimmy, we're going to know about. I am curious. The People's Republic of China, the Chinese Communist Party, has never had this low of standing since 1972 when President Nixon went. It has never been
Yes,
this
definitely.
unpopular, never this reviled. Do they not
Exactly.
understand that if they crack down on Hong Kong, it will go even lower? Or is there a recognition that they have screwed up royally for a year and a half about everything?
Well, I think they expect a censure of the Western world, especially America, after in the aftermath of the virus. So for them, if the outside world attack them, the more they have to counterattack and be more aggressive because they need enemies. The worse is the situation, the more the Chinese government needs enemies to unite the people so the people will ignore the sufferings they endure during the pandemic. So at the same time, the world is against China and its relationship with the world is at its lowest. Maybe it's an opportunity. China wants to get Hong Kong totally under control, regardless of whatever measure they have to use.
Now, Jimmy Lai, do
Because
people understand that the American people, at least, love the Chinese people? We love Hong Kong. We want to have a great
yes,
relationship, but that the party and
yes,
particularly Xi Jinping is the problem. It's not the Chinese people.
right.
It's the Communist Party, and particularly, I think it's President Xi. Do the Chinese people understand the American people are not their enemy?
Well, I think they know. I mean, the people know it. I'm sure the people know it. But also the propaganda in China, and also when the communists, when the CCP creates an outside enemy that can easily sway the sentiment of the people to unite together to confront the outside enemy. This is the Chinese sentiment because Chinese always have the feeling that the outside, the foreign country always inhumiliate them. That was the past history that make them very sensitive to outside enemies. And this is one advantage the Communist Party in China can use to unite the people by creating outside enemies. Now the outside is definitely against China by letting the violence to spread and destroy so much money, so many lives, and impose so much suffering on the free world.
But
So
when I
they know
talk to
that
the
this time,
when I talk to the
pardon me?
secretary, when I talk to the Secretary of State, Jimmy, when I
Yeah,
talk to Tom Cotton, when I talked to the Vice President
yeah,
yesterday, they
right,
all make a distinction between the party and the people. They are not upset with the
definitely.
people at all. And so, does the propaganda inside of the People's Republic of China actually work? It's so ridiculous to blame anyone other
Well,
than Xi Jinping. Does it actually work?
well, it works on some people. It won't work on others. But I think the world can help the Chinese people very much. Is that to advocate freedom of speech in China for the Chinese people? The reason is that if this time the Chinese people had freedom of speech, the doctors who first discovered the virus, Li Menliang, would be able to put the news into the social media and
Yep.
let everybody know instead of reprimand, so everybody can have the information and protect themselves. The virus would have been contained and would not have spread it to the world and create such a suffering for so many millions of people.
So, Jimmy, this
So
is the key
that,
question. This is the
yeah,
most important.
yeah,
America's
yeah,
big
that's the
tech
most
company.
important question.
Yeah, tell me
Yeah,
how
because free
America's
speech.
are America's big tech companies, Google and Facebook, are they helping or hurting free speech in China right now?
Well, they are not in China. They are not in China.
Are they selling the technology that China's
No,
Communist Party need
no.
to control?
China have their social media, but they're all censored. You know,
Right.
but the Chinese always say that freedom of speech is internal affair. But if this lack of freedom of speech jeopardizes the life and the national security of the outside world, this is the international security concern. The world has the right to ask China to grant its people the right of freedom of speech.
Absolutely. How most can Americans help in that? How do we help do that?
Well, I think your president, like your Secretary of State, your politicians can advocate this, and the people the people in America will advocate it. When the world advocates it, China will have nowhere to turn, and the people in China, if they know that the world is advocating freedom of speech, they will all stand up and be able to overcome the fear for just 10 minutes. I think the Communist Party will have to give in.
My last question, Jimmy. Are you afraid, and how do you overcome that fear when you are afraid?
No, I never allow fear to influence me, because the Chinese is very skillful in inducing fear in you. If I fear, I won't be able to do anything. Every time I ask myself, what is the consequences? Then I will be able to I can't do anything. You know, I don't think about the consequences. The only thing I think about is this is the fight we have to fight. Without the rule of law, without the freedom, we have nothing. There's no question we have to fight.
Jimmy Lee, good luck to you. God bless you. And we will continue to advocate. We'll follow you. We will watch on Twitter. And we will do whatever we can from America to make sure that people are watching Hong Kong, because it is absolutely vital that free speech and your activist movement continue during and after the virus. Thank you for joining me this morning.
Yes.